Good morning, everybody, and welcome to welcome to the August webinar COVID edition. I say COVID edition because I am out of my house right now. Everybody's got COVID in my house, so I am joining you from an unstable internet connection in a hotel. With that said, for fun for this webinar, and also to make sure that that we have a webinar, Chris Stokes from my office is actually going to host today. So this is a new dynamic. Me not having to host, him being the host. You may remember Chris from such hits as, Chris, what other webinars were you on before?
I don't remember what we talked about, but it was right after I cut my own hair 2 months into COVID. So that was one of the hot topics.
You may remember Chris from cutting his own hair. But anyway, Chris is, I'll give you a little intro and then kind of let you take over after I go over just our game plan here. But Chris has been with our law firm for
4 years.
Wow. Okay. Chris has been with us for 4 years, and I didn't feel a single day of those. They've just flown by. But I actually knew Chris when he was in law school. Chris is actually the first ever Rafi Law Firm employee, in a way, not for the IRS. There are 87,000 new agents. Chris actually wrote blogs for me when he was, what were you, second year? Third year?
Yeah, second and third year.
Yeah, and then I helped out with a mock trial team that he was involved in at the University of Georgia School of Law. And the really quick story is when he was graduating, I said to him and a few other people, you know, I need to hire him. And a year after he had started working on the defense side, I hired him. Rumor was there was a bidding war, but honestly, he made that up. So he's been overpaid ever since. But he does an amazing job, and he is, when you think about a younger lawyer, which I guess I still am too, but when you think about a younger lawyer who is hungry and hustles and smart and kind of, to use a baseball term, because he loves baseball, is a 5-tool player. That's how many tools there are, right, in baseball?
Yeah.
Is spitting sunflower seeds one of the tools? Because I've got that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but he has the ability to do everything a good lawyer needs to do. So I thought it'd be interesting for him to join. One, to have to give you a idea of how our law firm works. And I'm happy to share literally anything. To that end, if you go to question and answers during this webinar, we've gotten some questions emailed to us already, and we will address those. But if you have questions as things pop up, please put it in the question and answer. Makes it easier for us, and we'll answer every single one. I'll stay here all day if I need to. The second thing is that I thought it'd be interesting to have Chris because it is not his law firm by name, but that's not necessarily our approach. He has a mini law firm within ours, and it's the Chris Stokes business. So I thought that'd be interesting for all of y'all who work for other law firms to think about how you can build your own network business revenue generating machine inside of someone else's law firm. And then I thought we'd probably talk about what I always consider the 3 things you need in order to start a law firm, run a law firm. And then I bet, and I'm adding things to this as Chris sits here, is hearing some of these topics for the first time. I bet we will end about whether you should start a law firm, the positives and the negatives, because there's a good list on both sides. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Chris, and we can kind of get rolling. I think this will be fun because I'm never the one answering questions on my own webinar. I'm the one asking them. So, but anyway, I appreciate y'all joining us. I hope none of you have COVID, and I hope you're not relegated to a hotel either. Although, not so bad today. Not so bad. The internet connection, not so great though.
Appreciate everybody for joining us, and appreciate the kind words, Mike. You know, today I'm going to ask Mike a bunch of questions, and I have a pretty unique look and view of the Rafi Law Firm, because for the first 2 years I knew Mike. I was at a networking event where he told me one night, hey, my website goes live tomorrow, and I guess I have a law firm.
Is that true?
I was like, oh wow, that's scary.
Wait, is that true?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I didn't remember that. I bet you it must have been a one in November, December of 2015.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And
that's crazy. I don't remember that.
Yeah, so it's like, I was like, well, that sounds terrifying. As a second-year law student at the time, I was like, I can't imagine what he's thinking doing this. What a terrible idea. And then over those 2 years, I kind of saw how the Rafi Law Firm grew. And then, or I guess 2-3 years. And then by the end of that, it was at the point where he was hiring and things like that. So, obviously I've seen the Rafi Law Firm from that point forward as an employee. I kind of saw it from afar when he first started. And so a lot of the questions that I'm going to be asking, I hope y'all are interested in as well, that they kind of touch on both of those time periods. But to start where you started,
And just for fun, I don't know your questions, right?
No.
Like I have no idea what you're going to ask. I did not know that story that I said that about the website going live. For fun, I'll mention everyone. When I say I've used we since it was just me, which just sounds better a lot of times. Now there actually is a we I can say, but like at that time I was writing my own website, like literally like writing every word on the page. That's what I was doing all day and night, just writing pages on my website. So I probably was talking to you and had no idea what day it was. Like, what year was it? I had no clue.
Right. And so, I guess when you started out, obviously your focus was on a website, right? I don't know if that would be your focus today, probably not, maybe. But what were the things that, even going back from before a website went live, even going back to, what were some things that you did for yourself to set yourself up and say, okay, well, maybe I need to have this amount of money in savings to start this business. Maybe I need to have a way to borrow money. What was it that kind of helped you take that risky leap of, I'm going to start my own firm?
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do, and the thing that I did first in order of time, was find money. I had no fucking money, no money. So I was going to use somebody else's money. Isn't that what good businesses do? Right? Amazon, they haven't made money forever. So when I was for my quick career path, I worked at Troutman Sanders for 3 years, something like that. I then worked for 2 other personal injury law firms, and then started my own law firm. When I was at Troutman, I made good money, and it was guaranteed money as opposed to plaintiff's good money, where you're like, will this case settle? So when I had that, I think the last year I was there, once I did my taxes, and right before I left, I went to a bank. It was Bank of North Georgia at the time, which I think is now something else. And I walked in and was like, hey, my name's Mike. I'm thinking about starting my own law firm one day. How do I do that? Will you guys give me any money? And the guy's name was Mike. And he says back, he goes, oh yeah. And I was like, what? It was like the first time I got a credit card when they're like, what's your income? And I was like, I don't have any income. I'm in school. I lose, $40,000 a year. And they're like, oh, you get $40,000 in student loans? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, we're going to count that as income. It's money coming in. I was like, this is why people go bankrupt. So I had this credit line it was 2 credit lines, a $25,000 policy that was unsecured and a $25,000 policy that I had to secure with every asset I had at the time. So it's a total of $50,000. And that I just kept renewing that policy or those 2 lines for 3 or 4 years, whenever it was. And then I eventually used them to open. So that's the first thing, is you have to find money. And because if you don't have money, you can operate a law firm. All you need for a law firm is a computer, a printer, a stamps.com account. If you don't want to sit in line for the post office, you can get away. People get away without a Westlaw subscription, which is crazy, but people do that. That's all you need. Basically, you're a college kid. You need literally things that are in your dorm room. And the problem you run into, though, is you have to fund cases. So in time order, if you're ever thinking about starting a law firm, or if you're thinking of expanding a law firm into more cases, more people, people in payroll, those are things that cost money with a law firm generally. You need to have money. And I was also lucky that there were 3 lawyers. I won't say their names. I don't know if they're comfortable with me doing this, so I'll pause on that. But there were 3 lawyers who were in the plaintiff's space that said, hey, if you get a case and you need money to fund it, call me. And I said, okay. And I said, but I don't want just money at the time. I said, I don't want just money from you. I also want advice and help. So will you help me too? And they said, yeah. And I never actually borrowed money from them, but to this day, I still pick up my phone and bother those 3 people all the time. So that's what I had. I had money to start. You mentioned the website. That was the worst thing I did in terms of how it was just terrible to do, writing your own website. Because I had a substantial website. if I could do it back over again, I would have just put up like a page, like a landing page, maybe with like a contact page. And I don't know, maybe I have 3 pages in my whole website. That's probably what I would do again. Because all the website is a check on, like, are you a serial killer? Do you have a website? Are you smiling in your picture? Is it a soft smile or do I see teeth? Like, that's what the website is at the time. Our website's different now, and obviously you know that. But I delayed a little bit. I could have opened like a month earlier and I didn't because my website wasn't ready. I wouldn't have delayed a month. I would have gone out the day I decided I was going to open my law firm. I would tell everybody, if I was to go back, I would just start telling everyone, I have a law firm, I have a law firm, I have a law firm, send me cases, I'm poor. And because that was my marketing strategy at one point. I'm poor, help me. It's kind of like, what was that in Bridesmaids where they go, I'm poor, help me. So that's what I would probably do again, is not delay. And that's still what I would probably do today is, website or develop business. I'd probably just start developing business, although our website has moved to that direction.
Okay. So you had a line of credit, you had like a computer and a printer and stamps.com maybe.
No. I didn't have stamps.com until July. You've heard this story. July 4th of 2016. I was like, what am I doing here? While like 9 million Karens in front of me were mailing things. And that's when I finally got not only stamps.com, that's when I started looking for a part-time paralegal. But I was alone for 7-8 months, completely alone. I was the Rafi Law Firm. I actually had an email. This is true. I had an email that was like admin@rafilawfirm.com maybe or something. And I would email people from that one to set up, to schedule things. Not a joke. Like, let me loop in my assistant who I'd never use a name because I didn't want anybody to like call and ask for that. The phone was coming to my cell phone. I had an answering service late nights, but like, it was going to my phone, which, on weekends, it actually still does. So, and not in late nights, but yeah, that was the beginning of this empire that has, I say that kidding to everybody, by the way.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about the part-time paralegal and how that like kind of grew in a minute. But before we get to that, you rented some office space. And the answer to this question for a lot of people would probably be different pre-COVID. I know it wouldn't necessarily be different for you, but talk about that decision, the kind of deal that you had of office space, borrowing it from somebody else, paying them rent and all that type of stuff, and whether you would do that again.
Yeah, and what I'll do, if I'm going to change your questions, that's my webinar. I'm also going to add
editing my writing and my arguments for 4 years now, so I don't know what questions would be different.
I think this may work though. I'm going to answer your question and then let's talk about what's going on right now in our office with renewing office space.
Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense. So Steve Littner and Armand Deganian, for some reason, decided to help me out. And this is way back in the day. And I said, I can't pay you. I was like, I need an office, but I can't pay you. And I thought about a virtual office. Me working from home, not an option. Like, if I work from home, everything is done in my house. I've got my laundry done. I've got the dishwasher. I've got you name it, I will do anything but work. So I knew that wasn't an option. And, for credibility purposes, I think I was 28 or 29. It was either 28 or 29. I wanted an actual office. So I rented an interior office with a window that looked out into the hallway. I rented that from them and I paid them, I forget I think the rent was $800 a month. And I paid them $400 for the first 6 months and then $1,200 for the second 6 months to make up for it. Otherwise I couldn't pay them. And the hope was I would be able to get cases from them and that I would share cases with them. And that happened. I mean, that happened naturally to some degree. But what I actually learned was that it made the most sense because I wasn't alone. Michael Rupersberger, who had Rupersberg, I added an Erger in there. Michael Rupersberg, who had his own law firm at the time, also did that. He also rented space. So he was the office next to me, so I could go down and talk to him. Because one of the challenging things of running your own law firm, if you're alone or even in a small firm, is you're in an echo chamber or in your own head. So it was nice to be able to talk to, I don't know how many lawyers they had at the time, 5. Now they have like 1 billion. But it was nice to be able to go out and talk to people and say, like, I got this weird thing come up. I don't know what to do. Help me. What would you do? You know, so that really worked. For after that, we still did not invest in an actual office space of our own. We went to kind of a longer term, I don't know, what would you call where we were?
It was like a office sharing. It was like
Yeah.
it was all law firms or paralegals on a floor, and there were just individual offices you kind of lease.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list. I see Bruce Berger, and I'm like, Bruce, tell her.
Yeah.
Bruce's office was I mean, like we shared the same floor in a building, which was originally a law firm. And so just think of like a large fancy law firm, and we bought a certain number of offices. And the reason I did that is because of growth. Didn't know where growth was going, didn't know if we were going up, didn't know if we'd stay the same. And I was really worried about entering a long-term lease and either having way too much space, or really the other problem of not having enough space 2-3 years into the lease. So we did that were we there for 3 years?
Close to that, I think.
Yeah, I think we were there for 3 years. And then the space we are currently in, we're actually up for a renewal right now. We moved in there in January of 2020, and then promptly moved out in February of 2020 because of COVID. So even today in my office, I still don't have anything on the walls except the 2 pictures that everybody generally sees in webinars, because it's like the side of the office that has to look halfway decent. But we are currently going through a lease renegotiation, and we're in the same boat where I don't know how much space we need. I don't know how many lawyers we'll have, and everybody keeps asking me, well, what do you want? And I don't know. I mean, this is the most candid I can be. I don't know if I want a law firm. Stokes, how many people we have right now? 12?
Somewhere around
12-ish?
Yeah.
Feels good, 13, about 12. Yeah, 12 or 13. Well, I think it's 13, not counting me. So I don't know if we'll stay at 13 for the next 5 years or 10 years. I don't know if we'll go to 20, and I don't know if we'll go down to 7. What I will share with everybody is that having a law firm of the size we are at, which is let's call it the 10 to 15 people, I think it's the worst size business you can possibly have. And a lot of lawyers fall into this. I mean, I'm one of them, fall into this category. And the reason I think it's so difficult is because you're too big for one person to make all the decisions. I'm not saying I do make all the decisions, but in the end, if there is a decision to be made, I guess that's my job. So ultimately, I'm responsible. Let's put it that way. I'm responsible for all the decisions. And when you're at 10 to 15 people, there are too many decisions to be responsible for, or I am not the best person to make every single decision. You know this, Stokes. At some point over the last year, we probably crossed the Rubicon where, even in cases, if you describe a case to me in our office, I can tell you what case it is, and I know everything about it, but I don't know names. For the first time ever, I don't know every name in our office, and that's weird. So on certain cases, I am actually not the best person to make the decision. I might be the best person to talk it out with, but when it comes to making that important decision, for some cases, I may not be the best person. And that's true with operating decisions. That's true with marketing. That's true with all the different categories that your office has. Any other business, you go into a Best Buy, you got a dude who's in charge of computers. You got a dude who's in charge of, the cash registers. You got somebody else in charge of TVs. At 10 or 15 people, it's hard to have department heads. It's really tough. So we're in a really challenging situation from an operations standpoint right now. And somehow that ties back into leasing space, like you asked.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we kind of have to have a space now, right? Yeah. Because we have so many people. Some of the employees of the Rafi Law Firm work from home some days, but most of the time, a lot of people are here. But how would you? Yeah, I mean, if you were restart, yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me say though, when was Savannah with us?
2018.
Yeah, so in 2008. Yeah, 2018, I think into 19. Yeah, definitely into 19, because she left. I'll mention when I went to Spain. So in 2018, we had an employee who was great and then moved to Florida. And this is 2018. And I was like, I'd love for you to stay. I bought an extra bedroom, or she was going to get a 1-bedroom apartment. And I was like, get a 2-bedroom. I'll pay for the second bedroom. I'll pay the rate difference and make that your office from whatever her hours were, 8 to 5. And then I mailed her a computer. It was a desktop. I mailed her a desktop, a printer, a scanner, and
This was still early, by the way. It wasn't a new desktop. It was the same old desktop that she had.
Well, it was her. I mailed her her desktop,
Yeah.
but she worked remotely, and then we bought everybody webcams, and then she worked remotely for, I don't know, a year and a half or something. And I sat around in my house and was like, shit, if Savannah can do this, I think I can too. And in Cinco de Mayo 2019 through 4th of July or so, I lived and worked in Spain. I remember Eric Rogers calling me when I was in Spain being like, hey, you want to get lunch? And I was like, yeah, I'm on vacation. I'll get back. This is like right when I got there. And he calls me back 2 or 3 weeks later. He's like, hey man, what, you back? What? And I was like, no, I'm on vacation. He's like, same one? And I was like, sort of. But I was there for like 3 months and nobody cared. Nobody noticed. So I bring that up because I think you can run a law firm from not being there, but that was stressful as shit because, I wasn't there and I wasn't seeing what was happening. I wasn't being able to talk to employees. I wasn't able to get the read of the room every day at work and say, like, is everybody happy? Are things going well? Do we need to make some internal changes? I mean, I know there are people that run law firms larger than ours that are completely virtual and don't have office space. This isn't bullshit. I actually like going to work and I like the conversations we have in the hallway. I like talking about cases. I like going to LS Tech next door and getting beer after work. I also think that for accountability purposes, there's one person in our office that if she never went to work, I would be totally cool because like she does so much work. I'm talking about. She does so much work and is so great at home. But I don't think she would be happy as a long-term employee. I think she'd be frustrated and feel out of touch. And just, I think that to some degree, at least with our folks, they want it to be more than just, checking in. They want to feel good. I think that's why people get into this job. So what was your question?
Yeah, no, I think you answered it as far as starting out with office space, whether you have it or not. I mean, I think it boils down to personal preference. And if you can find something that is cheap when you're starting out and you think you need it, then that's an option, but you don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we still go. I mean, you went to Macon out of the blue last week, right? Last Thursday, last Wednesday, something like that. So we got a call. It was a good case, and Stokes was available. So he hops in a car. He actually drove his scooter home. He scooters to work. Drives his scooter home, gets in his car, and then drives to Macon. So luckily, we didn't lose out on those cases for that 10-minute scooter ride. Yep. But so he scooter. Sorry. So I can't think of the last time that I'm really trying to think. I can't think of the last time that someone came into our office to sign up when we hadn't already signed up a contract for us to represent them. I just can't think of that. We go to people all the time, but DocuSign or whatever you do it virtually now, that is so common and expected by people. It's great. It's amazing. I do think it's really important to hop on the phone or hop on the FaceTime right away and start trying to develop a personal relationship with somebody, unless they're just, you're going to be lawyer number one, and then they might go find a lawyer number two or not trust you, or, for all those reasons you need a relationship. So, if you're just starting a law firm, I would probably just get a mailing address at this point. We all kind of hopefully learned how to work from home. But I think once you hit a threshold of a meaningful group of people, I think you need an office, because I think we would make less money on cases. We'd settle cases for less if we did not have office space. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we walk down the hall and, whoever, I'll be talking about a case and Alan pops out, Alex pops out, you pop out and say, well, what about this? And I'm like, shit, I'm thinking about this for 2 weeks. Why didn't I think about that? And I just know that wouldn't happen. And I also know that, I don't think we'd keep staff as long if we all worked virtually. They might like the idea of it, but I think that if they worked virtually full time, they're not going to have any relationship with anybody. And there's no reason for them to care about you or the firm, because they're just like a contract employee working at home. With that said, right now, I mean, paralegals work either 2 or 3 days from home anyway, and that's just because they want to. And I'm fine with that as long as there's trust.
So talking about paralegals, talking about staff, You mentioned earlier you had a part-time paralegal. I think you may have had two part-time paralegals before having a full one, or maybe I can't.
No, I had one. I had one. Audrey, who's now a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it that prompted you to say, okay, I need somebody? And how does that differ from what we do now of, okay, I need somebody to add to 12 or 13 people?
Yeah.
Before it was, I need someone to help me do everything. And now it's, we need somebody for a specific purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it's, at the time when I first started hiring anybody, the first question people would ask me, lawyers and staff members. I remember a prospective paralegal asked me this question, and it's a very fair question, but I wanted to crawl under my seat. She goes, well, if I leave my job and I come and work with you, will you be able to pay me? Like, if you don't get any cases, like, will you be able to pay me? And I was like, well, no, I don't get any cases. But my answer to that, if you're going through that, or if that's a hesitation that somebody has, my answer was, look, it's in your interest to be paid. It's in my interest to pay you, unless I'm the guy who hired somebody who couldn't pay them, and I don't want to be that. But with a paralegal, I found a Georgia State part-time student. Her name was Audrey. She's now a lawyer, and she worked part-time. And then her hours I kept kind of like, how about 2 more hours? How about 3 more hours this week? Hey, can you give me 5 more hours? So I then hired 2 paralegals in tandem. So then it was me and 2 paralegals followed by a lawyer. And the decision to hire everybody, it's so easy looking back. Everybody says, it's, well, once you can do it, you should do it, because you should be spending your time doing lawyer things and not paralegal things. I think that's really unfair to say to people, to any law firm. Like, I think our lawyers do things that paralegals do in other firms, but we categorize them as lawyer tasks because we think they're important for whatever reason. Discovery being one of the main ones. There's a law firms where paralegals are 99% of discovery. What I would say, you guys, and when you guys handle discovery, you're 60%, 65%, depends
on the type of cases you're handling too.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So, and I'm just talking written discovery, obviously. I'm just talking responding to discovery. But the majority is still a lawyer-driven process. So I think you have to sit down and write a job description. And I think that's true anytime you're looking to hire somebody. And it's so annoying, but so smart. You sit down and you say, what are the things you need? And back then I needed, mail, answer the phones, pretend that I'm bigger than my law firm actually is. I would come in every Saturday morning, I'd let the mail build up. And then every Saturday morning I'd come in and for 2 hours or 3 hours, I'd sit there and I'd do the mail, which I'd electronically file my own mail, scan, file, throw out, scan, file, throw out. I think we were one of the first, I feel confident saying this, one of the first electronic law firms, like almost paperless. Like, right now, all we have are client signed agreements. And frankly, I don't even know if we have all of them. Yeah, maybe. Like, we throw away, and I'll tell everybody, we throw away everything, because I just don't think you need it. So there's very few things we kept. The reason that we started doing that, or I started doing that, is I just didn't want to file things in paper. So I was willing to take the risk and just be like, no, we're going to be a paperless firm. Why? Because after I scanned that shit, I would just throw it away, and I didn't have to make paper files, because I came from a firm that had paper files. So you kind of do things by need, and then you're like, oh, this makes sense. So anyway, getting back to hiring somebody, I think you have to write a job description. And right now, when we hire people, that job description is much more specific than it used to be. It used to be a broad thing. Hey, if you can do 9 things, any 9 things, we'll probably hire you. Now it's really tough to say, do you have this knowledge? Do you even have these skills, and do you have this experience? So every time we start hiring somebody, we start with a job description. And now I guess we also do one other thing. I go around to everybody and say, do you think we should hire? Like, how are you? How are you? How are you? Do you have time? Do you have time? Do you have time? Do you need time? Do you need time? Do you need time? And then what things, we talk about this a lot. If we're about to hire somebody new, I go around to everybody and say, what do you want this person to do? And we basically build a job description for that person that makes sense for what we need. And then over time, generally a person ends up liking and moving towards 80% of their job duties. And then you're left with 20. And you either pick up the slack over there, and trade to somebody else, or you hire somebody else to supplement that.
As far as when we started, it was everybody was paralegal. whatever that meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except everybody did everything. Now it's different. Paralegals, case managers, how did you come to the realization that we needed to have more specialized people doing certain tasks and roles?
I was really against this. I was really against having different divisions in the law firm, the classic pre-suit department and litigation department. I'm still against it, even though we kind of do it, which may sound funny, but I really don't like the idea. I want everybody to know how to do everything. And for clients, I want clients to be able to stick with the same people throughout the whole process. In my perfect world, on day one, a client meets a lawyer and a paralegal, and that lawyer and paralegal work that case from the start to dispersing the money at the end. I think over time that becomes really challenging, and the number of tasks that are within each little department become overwhelming. So and this is going to lead into case management software. We use a thing called Asana. One of my first webinars, if you want to see Asana, I think I pulled it up. But it's a project management system where we have a list of tasks, just like a workflow, and we assign those things as a case comes in. And as that tasks list has grown over the years, the amount of knowledge and skill that a paralegal, general term paralegal, needs to have has become pretty significant. And I think it's very difficult to find somebody who can do everything on the paralegal job list if we were to make it that broad. So we started paring it down, and naturally we fell in a little bit into the pre-suit department, litigation department. In truth, I think we focus on when a case is going to settle. Do you think that's fair? I think we break down cases by staff members based on when we think they will settle.
Right.
And case type to some degree, because just because it's pre-suit doesn't mean it goes to a pre-suit case manager in our office, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for confirmation to make sure I know how our office works.
And I think also if it's a shooting case, if it's a sexual assault case, it's like those become so complex that it's almost the functions of a litigation paralegal in the case are going to be the same, trying to prove up and investigate the case pre-suit.
I guess to answer your question directly, the reason we started with a division of labor and having case managers was because we had a number of clients who were still treating. I think this is actually the honest and most direct answer. Now I'm thinking about it. Shows that we didn't prepare this beforehand. We had clients that were still treating and we didn't know what to do. Like, no joke, didn't know what to do, because for years, every case that came to us was somebody who had already been hurt, already was treating or had treated, and another lawyer referred us the case. And we took the case, and within 21 days, the case is in suit and we're off to the races. Then we started getting more referrals where it was from non-PI lawyers, especially, where hey, my sister, my friend, Laura Esposito's mom is like, can you please help us? And I'm like, yeah. And then the first question is, well, I need to treat. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can tell you some ideas of how you get treatment and go through the health insurance, go through, whatever. And then it's like, oh, we need to follow up with these people and figure out where they're treating and are they still treating? How's it going? And that's what we didn't have. That was the biggest gap in our law firm. So we hired a first case manager, and that is the answer of how it came. It was a pure need that we never had before. And then suddenly we have a need that we need to follow people through the treatment process. And we had some cases where we had to monitor treatment because of low limits, which we'd never had before. And suddenly it's like, there was somebody in particular I can think of in our head. I don't know if we fucked up or not. I'm happy the person got medical treatment, but I remember we had a client who was one of the first clients that we kind of really took from the ground floor, that was referred to us without any treatment. The crash had happened 2 hours ago as opposed to 2 years ago. Usually we're coming way late in the game. And that person, I think, ran up I don't know, $90-something thousand when there was a $25,000 policy, had health insurance, so not a big deal. But that could have been, if that person didn't have health insurance, that might have been a problem. So from a lawyer perspective, not a treatment perspective. So, we've hopefully, I know we've made changes where now we have people that are dedicated to the case manager role, which I don't really love the term case manager. I would kind of call them like a treatment. I don't know what I would call them. Status coordinator.
I think we call it case manager. Yeah, we call it case manager because that's what we've heard other people call it. But I mean, I think the point of it is you have to figure out, for so long we had certain types of cases like Mike was talking about where we didn't have to do that type of thing. And then this role was created where we were like, okay, it would be really useful to have 1, 2, now 3 people doing that. And so you just have to figure out what type of cases require what type of work. And then, you can call somebody a case manager, you can call them a paralegal, but as long as you have the job description with their well-defined roles.
One of the perks of working as a staff member of Rafi Law Firm is you can literally pick your own job title. Do not care if you're the queen of unicorns. Don't give
Captain of morale.
Yeah, I mean, Stokes actually is our quote captain of morale. It's not a role that he auditioned for. No one else fits that role at our law firm at all. I mean, if you go back and watch Alex and Alan on webinars, not captains of morale. Is Alex on this? No, didn't even join the webinar. What kind of morale is that? Comes in your office before the webinar. If y'all didn't see this, one of our lawyers comes in and goes, "Oh, you guys doing a webinar?" I'm like, "Yeah, Alex, been doing this for 3 years. You've been here." And he's like, "Oh, maybe I'll join this one." Not on the list.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, not on the list.
But we've talked about case managers in that type of role. I know we got a question before we started about case management software, and you kind of alluded to it. We started out with Asana, which is not a case management software. It's like hey, do this, and I can make comments on it, and then we'll check it and close it out when the task is complete. We have had a little bit of
steroids.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of a renaissance, I guess, when it comes to case management software recently. Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm debating in my head right now how honest I want to be and tell everybody how I've screwed up. So I will. I feel good. Maybe it's the late COVID hitting me here. I don't know. I spent a year and more money than I would like to say trying to build my own case management software. Like to the point where we have a demo. Like we have more than a demo. Like we have a case management software that is proprietary internal case management software. If you can tell by our faces and my red face with embarrassment, we don't use it. So with that teaser, let me go back. For 5 years, 6 years, we didn't need a case management software. Every lawyer had 20 to 25 cases, something like that. And our firm, I remember when we hit the 100 case mark, it was like crazy. I mean, that was mind blowing to me.
We have to hire somebody else.
The story is right. The story is I go to a referral source, or I develop a referral source, and that person says, "Hey, come over to my office. I got a couple cases. They've been sitting on my desk. I need to move them." And I leave there with, I think it was 12 cases. To give you all perspective at the time, I think our firm had 55 cases. So I leave and I call you, I call my mom, I call whoever else. And I'm like, it wasn't even a call of happiness. It was a call of being scared.
What do we do?
So I'm like,
I was like, I can't take them.
Yeah, I mean, like, so 12 cases it was a 20% increase in our caseload. And that may not sound like a lot, but these were 12 cases that needed to be put into suit. We're all surgical cases. And I was like, I walked out of there. I was afraid to say no, right? I don't want to say no and lose that business and never get it again. I don't want to, I want to help the person. I want to do a great job. But yeah, I walked out of there. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe that just happened. And I can't believe I have 12 cases. That's mind blowing to me, even looking back now. So we immediately tried to hired a very good lawyer, which worked out great. The stars aligned. But even with that, when we had another lawyer, we had 12 cases, and then eventually that lawyer gets up to 20 or 25 cases. But it's very manageable. Then we start, and again, the trigger point is we started having more clients who came in and needed to go to treatment. I guess the date of incident, the date of the crash, if we're talking car crashes, became closer and closer to the intake date. If that makes sense. It used to be a lawyer would, and it still happens all the time at our firm. A lawyer takes a lawyer outside of our firm takes a case, the person treats, they try to settle it, or at some point they're like, I need help, and then they call us. What, we're usually a year behind, something like that. Like when COVID happened, I wasn't worried about 2020 because none of our cases were, our leads weren't 2020 leads in 2020. We were getting 2019 leads because those were the case that's when we were getting cases from. And we're almost like accountants, like we're a calendar year behind usually. But we kept getting, we kept getting, we got more and more cases that somebody would call us, a lawyer would say, hey, so-and-so got hurt last Tuesday, and then we have to have the ability to do this case management role. So we get Asana, which is a task management software. It's a to-do list on steroids. It's great for communication, but it's not geared towards law firms, and it's not a practice management software. Like, we're still working in Excel spreadsheets to track leads, to track who's assigned to what cases, those kind of things. And we decided I was going to try to build, I guess I did, it sucks, but I did it. Build our own case management software for a few reasons. One, I didn't want to be constantly paying rent to someone for case management software. Two, I didn't like any of the case management softwares. I spent way too long. I actually did 2 rounds over like a 2-month span and probably spent like 40 hours listening to demos and whatever. And there were things I didn't like about all of them. Number 3, I thought it'd be really cool to have one that we designed exactly ourselves. And then number 4, I thought it would be really good to do something different that enabled us to look at our law firm from a different perspective on how we're going to run cases and how we're going to operate and things like that. So I spent a year, spent tens of thousands of dollars, have a web development team, and I don't like it. It doesn't work. Nobody likes it.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah, it just doesn't function the way that we envisioned it would function.
Yeah, and maybe it will one day, but need a break from it at this point. And I kept promising people for months, like, 3 months from now, it's going to be good. 3 months from now, we're going to have it. And eventually we bit the bullet and we just got CasePeer. It's so new in our office that I think we did our first intake with it on Monday. And we are in this really weird situation where we have our cases that are not in CasePeer and we have CasePeer. So now the shitty part of, and this was another reason I wanted case management software. The shitty part of having case management software is, at least when you start it, if you have cases that are in litigation, which the majority of ours are, you got to decide, am I going to transfer all this stuff to CasePeer or not? And if not, you're going to work out of 2 systems. And our caseload takes, it takes 1.5 years to 2 years to really cycle through to get almost all the cases out the door and resolved. So we're probably going to be in 2 systems for, I might be doing a webinar in 2024 where I'm complaining about this. So, we'll be closer then. We'll probably bite the bullet then and just somehow transfer everything over. But I'm not going to transfer a case that we've been working on for a year plus, have hundreds of thousands of pages of discovery. And, I'm not going to do that. That makes no sense. So yeah, we're in a kind of an operations hell or an operations transition period right now, depending on how you want to look at it. It's making me pull my hair out, but I don't know. That's where we're at on the case management software. I hate case management software at this moment. Hopefully one day I'll like it and it'll be nice. People in the office seem to like it. Everybody likes, if we're able to implement it, and as soon as we're able to implement it 100%, I think people will love it. But we're not there yet, and it's really tough.
So you talked, and this is shifting subjects obviously, but you talked earlier about when you had a part-time paralegal or you had 2 paralegals and a lawyer. Now we have 13 people. As a person running a law firm, how has your position kind of changed when it comes to management, when it comes to supervision? Because when I first started here, it was 5 people total. Now we're obviously we've been up to, I think, as much as 15 people at one point.
14, 15,
people.
15 is
Okay.
a bad number. And the reason it's actually 14, but the reason there's a threshold number where you have to start following more rules under the federal government. But I am not an employment lawyer, so I'm not going to go down that road. But no.
Yeah.
So anyway, I say that.
But so talk about how your, management style, supervision of employees changed from where you had 1, 2, even 5 employees to now.
Yeah. Best advice I ever got when I was coming out of law school. I was actually still in law school, and it was from the now dean at the law school, Bo Rutledge. He said, you need to find a Sherpa. And I was like, and Bo's a smart dude. Like, I mean, it's like when he says Sherpa, I'm thinking like there's some magical meaning to this. And I'm just too stupid to understand. So he's like, you got to find a Sherpa to take you up the mountain. I'm like, what? And he said, and basically, and it's obvious now, but he said, you need to find somebody, he was talking about in the context of Troutman, but you need to find somebody who at a partnership meeting is going to stand up and say, Mike's got to be partner. If Mike's not partner, I'm out of here. You guys are crazy. Like, you need that person that's in your corner. And when I started hiring people, I realized that I was kind of the Sherpa. Like, people came to work, I think, for the law firm, or didn't come to work for the law firm because of me. If somebody turned me down, which somebody turned us down, I don't know, 2 years ago, a year ago, and I was personally offended because the reason is like, you're turning me down, like it's me. I don't think so, and I'll get to this. I think actually he turned you guys down, totally, not me. But when people at the beginning, a little bit at the beginning, I was the reason somebody would or wouldn't work here. I was the Sherpa. I was the person that they worked for. Now, the most recent hire, I don't have any cases with that person. So, and it's a staff member. I said to the staff member up front, I am going to be the person that works with you the least, if at all. And my answer is I just don't want to work with new people. She's very experienced, has amazing skills, but I don't want to work with anyone new. I want to have my same system with the same people that I work with, because I'm selfish in this regard, and that's what I want to do, and it saves me time and gives me clarity and surety. So now I think when we hire, like, you guys are showcased. Like, if we're looking for someone who's going to work with you and Alex are the ones that really make the decision. So when we hire, one, I try to get consensus from everyone that we need to hire. We try to get that job description written, so that way we know what we're actually hiring. I do a first screen, and then Casey, our office manager, will get involved too, and her and I typically do the first screen. But then after that, when we get down to people that actually might fit the role, they work they're interviewing mainly with people they're going to work with. And then in terms of management, things come up with 10 plus people that shit doesn't come up with 4 people. Like, you have 14 people in one office. Some people are going to like other people more. Some people are going to mesh and want to hang out outside of work. Some people are just going to want to come and do their job and leave. And I realized over time, you can't hire 14 people like you. Can't be, the Slim Shady with all the M&Ms running around behind them. That doesn't work. I worked for somebody who I think is similar to me, and that didn't work. And I don't think you can hire the same people. So I think it's good to have different people, but you also have to manage people different ways. So now Casey, our office manager, she is the direct report. If you have an office issue of any kind, from I need paper, you complaining about wanting a printer, from that all the way to, I'm having some tension or difficulty, with feedback that somebody's given me. That's probably the worst comment, the biggest deal at our law firm, right? When somebody, especially a staff member, says, hey, I don't like the criticism I've been getting, whether it's the substance or the way it's been delivered. And we try to work through that, which happens, I don't know, once a year. But that's something that I don't think would ever happen, because with a small law firm, at least when I was 4 or 5 people, because I hired 4 or 5 people that I meshed with. Now, person 12, 13, 14, I don't necessarily mesh with that person. That's okay. So I think that's the biggest place that you can draw a line and say, yes, I'm the boss, but I am not the person to report office issues, whatever that gamut is. I'm not the person to report that to directly. And I'm sure there are things in the office, especially on like a operations day to day. I know there are things that I don't know about and I don't want to know about that Casey just handles. And Casey was the best staff hire we've ever made because, you know, she takes ownership and she is a great office manager and she's great at not telling me stuff I don't need to know.
Right. And so as far as staff, we've kind of talked about that. I at least have seen, and we obviously knew each other before I came to work here, but how has your approach to hiring, managing, supervising lawyers changed since the first lawyer that you hired? Which I understand the first lawyer that you hired was somewhat short-lived, but from there onward.
Wow.
I didn't point any fingers at anybody.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's love that on a public webinar. Damn. How is my management? Okay, so I think that I heard Joe Fried talk about this, and I don't want to parrot what he says, but it's he's so right. The biggest struggle that I have, and I think anybody who starts something they're proud of, whether it's a business, a team, or whatever, is that you want it done your way. And I mean, when you started here, did you have any freedom? I mean, let's be honest. Like,
no.
With that said, should you have though?
No, I didn't know anything.
All right.
I had only done defense work.
Yeah. So I mean, so you're an easier example because you didn't have any freedom. One, because I wasn't willing to give you any, and two, you didn't have the right to it. Like you didn't have the ability to have it. And frankly, looking back, you probably could have had more freedom earlier than you did. You know, it's to use a football analogy, it's like what Peyton Manning, I think, sat out his whole first year or something like that, but pretty close. Somebody fact check me on that. As opposed to, you know, David Carr, who I think he was with the Texans and just got murdered for a year and was never a quarterback again. But anyway, the lawyers we have hired now come in and they're able to do everything they need to do. They might not do it in the system in the way that I'd like, but the lawyers now that we have can start having a ton of freedom on day one. But it's really fucking hard to give up that freedom. I mean, it's really hard because, you know, it's my law firm. I'm scared. I'm nervous. It's a reflection of me. I want it to be right. I want it to be perfect. You know, and that's, you know, what's the saying? Something like perfection is the something of progress, and something like that.
Or don't let good or perfect be the enemy of the good. That type of stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it's in somebody's kitchen, like right above a sign that says like kitchen and like food and live, laugh, love. But yeah, giving up freedom has been really, really tough. You know, on one hand, I like to think that back and say, you know, I said to you, my first thing to you was, but did you need or should you have had the freedom? And you say no, and I think that's not totally true. But there were certain times, I'm sure, where, you know, where you or whoever else should have had more freedom and didn't. But it was really tough to give that up. So I think it goes hand in hand with gaining trust from the lawyers you work with and really believing that they can handle everything. And that's part them showing it and doing it. It's you trusting the hires that you make and the credentials and your hiring process, the credentials they have, and also the credentials of your hiring process. And then also being willing to take a risk. You know, it's hard to give up control and then, you know, look back and say, shit, if I would have done it, if that person didn't do it their way, they did it my way, it would have gone differently. Sometimes that is true. But sometimes I'm on the flip side. I say to myself, I would have done it a different way and we wouldn't have gotten the same result. And that's because the lawyers, when they're on a case in our office, at least they have a master. They're masters of the facts and of the strategy, and they are typically the best people to make the decisions because they're working the day to day. And I'm glad we have people like that. It also, I think the way we pay lawyers has changed.
Yeah.
And it's also given, I'll just say, we used to pay at the beginning, I paid a salary and a discretionary bonus. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's a percentage of what you brought in as well.
Yeah. So putting aside generating your own business, just for firm cases that started with the firm, originally lawyers were just paid a salary and then a discretionary bonus. Then we went to a salary and a bonus that was a certain percentage of every case that closed, put into a pool, and then divided by the lawyers. That may sound funny, so I'll say that again. We had 3 lawyers at the time. Whatever percentage of the money that came to the firm went into a pool, a bonus pool, and then the lawyers equally divided that. The reason I did that was from a management point perspective was I didn't want to have to worry about who is getting what cases. You were the problem. Stokes comes in and gets $3 million cases within like a very short time period. And on one hand, I thought that he was new. He got the case because he had time. He wasn't the best person for the case, no offense, at the time. Like, was the least experienced person, but these cases come in and he has as much time as anybody, so he works the cases. And the other lawyers, I thought it would be unfair to them to not get a piece of that bonus. So we put it in a pool. This was decided before you got the cases, but we put it in a pool. And eventually what happened over time with our pool is that, what word should I use here, Stokes? I think that there were freeloaders.
I'll allow you to use that word.
And maybe that's too extreme. That probably is too extreme. The word is probably that the bonus pool divided equally wasn't fair because people weren't doing equal work and weren't bringing equal value to the firm. And everyone's not equal. So I kind of got over my fear of I can't give the best cases to the best lawyer, or I can't give this subject matter case to this lawyer only, because that might make another lawyer mad. That lawyer isn't going to make as much money. Well, if that lawyer was better, and I'm just using this, this is not directed at anybody. I want to be very clear. Just saying that other lawyer though could be better at those cases and do a better job, and whatever, and get those cases if he or she chooses to. So I eventually kind of got over that mental hurdle and kind of said, fuck that. If you do great work, you should be highly compensated. So now our bonus structure is more on an individual way. It's still based on, there's still a large salary component. At least I think it's large. To me, it's large. It's a 6-figure salary where, you're expected to work. Here's your salary. You get a salary to do work. And then you're incentivized also to close cases for as much money as you possibly can, because you benefit. And with employees, I want to have a salary component, because I want to be able to say, hey, you have to do it. You have to work within our firm systems because you are a firm employee. I mean, you're not a mini law firm within yourself. You're a mini revenue generating machine, but you're still this law firm. And I also want to incentivize people. And that's also why, in our firm, lawyers and paralegals don't pair up. One lawyer works with 2 paralegals, and it's mixed. The reason for that is I don't want mini firms. I don't want the Chris Stokes Law Firm. One, because I don't think that's a good idea for personal reasons. I want everybody, to be doing the same systems, have the same operations. If you leave and you have the Chris Stokes Law Firm, I want to make sure that those cases, I know what's going on in them, and they're put in the same way, and I have updates in the same manner. And I also frankly think the Rafi Law Firm system generates some amazing results, and fuck you, use my system. I mean, that's it. I mean, I think you'll get a better result if you do it our way with your personality. That's what I would say. Our way with your personality. Do your bat flip if you want to after you get a home run, or don't run around the bases and be miserable because it's baseball.
Yeah, we're running a little bit low on time as far as how long we've been talking, but one thing we talked about beforehand that we wanted to touch on was obviously how you make money is getting cases and resolving them. And so can you talk a little about when you started? And I know we've talked about this in other webinars, so we won't go into an hour-long detail because this is its own webinar as well. But when you started, what did you have cases that you brought with you? How did you start to venture out and try and get cases?
I had a case where my guy was on a bike and he totally caused himself to get hit. And that was my first case. That was the first case I ever had, literally. My guy was on a bike. I forget exactly what happened, but he he was the reason that he got hit. So the first case I ever signed up, I promptly, not so promptly, frankly, I was trying to make anything out of anything. I eventually, told that person, I don't think you have a case and I can't help you. I think it's so much. I think the easiest time to get cases is your first year. You need them. You need cases, because if not, you don't live. At least that was me. I was running at a loss every month. So I was stupid. I bought a house, got married, and started a law firm all in the same year. Do not recommend. 1 star. So like literally, and that was my pitch to people. Hey, I need cases, and I won't screw it up. I won't screw it up because I know how to do it. But I also won't screw it up because I absolutely need this, and I can't afford to screw it up. We were lucky in that pretty quickly, I had some articles in the Daily Report for verdicts or settlements or whatever it was. And then suddenly it's like, I remember somebody said to me, I was like, hey man, I need your case. And he's like, fuck you, you don't need my case. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, saw you in the Daily Report. You don't need my case. And I was like, and then I was like, shit, in year 2 into year 3, marketing was tougher because I wasn't new. People weren't like dying to help me. And I couldn't say I needed it. I wanted it. So it's always been person to person. I mean, that's the marketing we prefer. That's it helps us cut down on bad cases, because lawyers that are on this list will see a case, they vet it themselves, and then for whatever reason, the value, the subject matter, the difficulty, whatever it is, they then come to us. I like that. I like working for other lawyers. In every case we say we have 2 bosses. We got the client, who's the boss, and then we got the referring lawyer, who's the boss. So I like that system, and I like that we work, help other lawyers. That's why I do these webinars. I just like that. The worst clients we have are the ones that come in, that call us up and are like, we found you on Google. I'm like, how? Like, how many lawyers have you called before me? And those people need help, and some of them are really good clients, but the quality of clients that come in from other sources besides lawyers aren't as great. So I prefer not to have headache clients. I'm really thankful that right now I have the ability. When I know a couple months ago we had a call where it was a case, and I remember I was in your office and we looked at each other and we're just like, no, not this person. Not I don't know, what's the male version of a Karen? A Kevin? We were like, this, like, no chance on Kevin. I wouldn't have done that. And we have a client, a crazy former client down in Florida, who fell at an airport. And I still, if looking back, I would still have taken that crazy client back then because I needed to. Right now, I'm really thankful that I don't have to. But that's a tough position for anybody to be in. I mean, when you need cases, and you're competing against everybody else. It's a competition to some degree. You're like Apple trying to sell more iPhones than Samsung. I see 2 questions, so I'm going to answer those real quick. Patrick asked, with systems and having as many people as we do, how do I make sure that people are doing things the same way? Do we have like an internal Wikipedia where everybody can see how tasks are done? We have a, Stokes, what's it called? I can't think of the name.
Master procedures.
Thank you. We have a master procedures list, which are numbered from 1 to whatever.
And are continuously being added. It was 10 probably to start. Now it's, I don't even know.
Whatever. Yeah. So if before you ask somebody for help, take a look at the master procedures. And some of them obviously are shown to new employees or employees who are taking on different roles. So check those, see if they're in there. And if it's not, and you're the first person ever doing this at our law firm, which you're not, it just means somebody hasn't followed our procedure. Our procedure is write a procedure. So if you're doing this for the first time, write it down so that way, everybody knows how to do it. How do we make sure that people are following things? Eventually there's certain things that people are lazy with. In our office, it's medical records, how we organize them, and we do it in a meticulous way. How we organize medical records, and then this document we keep called a case index and a document index. Anytime I go into a case, and I tell the lawyers this too, anytime I go into a case, the first thing I do is I open up the case index and the document index and see if that's doing the things that it's supposed to do. And then I look at the medical records and bills and see if they're categorized, organized in the way that they should be. And if they're not, somebody gets a really quick email that says, hey, I saw this. It's you're half-assing it, or you're not. Why isn't this done? And then it's what other cases are like that. Go through every one of your cases and make sure. And it's kind of like the cleaning your room if you're a parent. You open up the closet, everything looks good, but then you open up the closet door and all the shit falls out, and you're like, then you start looking under the bed, and then then you look down the curtain or whatever. So that's how we do it. I will also freely say we use files.com for our document hosting service. We used to use Dropbox. We use files.com. The reasons don't matter. But what is really interesting about files.com is I can go in and I can see every single thing somebody does. I can see when you log in. I can see every document that you click on. I can see every change you made. I can see all that. And I tell people, Matt Stokes, everybody in the office knows this, right? This isn't some secret. So I tell everybody that I never, ever, ever expect to work or to look on that. It's not a good use of my time. But if things aren't getting done and I think they should be, or whoever you're working with thinks they should be, and we're trying to figure out why, first thing I'm going to do is click on that thing, click on that kind of activity log and say, is this person doing what they're supposed to be doing? And so that's well known in our office. It's not a secret. And I'll sit there with somebody and on their computer and be like, hey, well, let's look at your activity log and see what you've been doing. And then let's talk about, we had an employee who, going through that activity log, we realized that there was so much time being spent on tasks that she thought were really, really valuable that we didn't. And once we were able to refocus and say, you spent 4 hours on that, which she thought was really, really important. And we took those 4 hours and made that 4 minutes, and then 3 hours and 56 minutes doing something else. That changed everything for that employee and the people working. I hope that answers that question. Stokes, what's another one?
Yeah, the another question somebody asked is, as your firm has grown, how have you managed employee benefits, 401k, health insurance, et cetera? Do you shop those things individually yourself or hire someone to handle employee benefits?
Yeah, we have a health insurance guy. I think I have an email sitting from him. That's probably why this is a timely question. I got an email sitting from him right now that I have to pick our health insurance. But yeah, I mean, for a firm our size, no matter who you go to, any agent, it's going to be the same price. I know that because literally 2 weeks ago, I was like, hey, Casey, maybe we should ask somebody else so you can get a different rate or different access. We called some different access to different health plans. And we called somebody else, and that person was like, nah, we all have the same shit, same price. Don't worry about it. Go back to your other person. And which I was glad to get that confirmation. So we offer health insurance to everyone. Casey has terrible eyesight. So then when she started working, we then suddenly got vision. So now we have health insurance and vision. In terms of 401k plan, we do not have it. And we are probably on the cusp of it making sense. I'm sure that a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, I shared the numbers with everybody. Stokes, would you say, I mean, I think we're pretty financially open with,
yeah.
I mean, in a plaintiff's firm, you can't, air quotes here if you're just listening, hide. You can't hide money. So
it's a percentage of everything that you bring in. Everybody can do the math.
Yeah, I mean, I walk around the halls and go like this, and everybody knows we settled the case. Like it's, I'm raising the roof like it's 1996. But so everybody knows how the firm is doing. They might not realize what the marketing expenditures are, or how intakes are going if you're not in that department or whatever. But generally, everybody has a feel for how the firm's doing, and we're really lucky that every year has been our best year, which is really, really cool. So I ran the numbers on 401k, and I showed that to everybody. And I said, here's the cost of operating a 401k plan. Here's what will end up in your pockets eventually. Here's what will end up in your 401k plan. Here's how it works. What do y'all want? Do you want healthy bonuses? Do you want raises? And I remember most staff said, we want raises. And I was like, I don't think you should take a raise. If I were you, I would take a bonus, get the money up front right now. And then even if you leave, you still have the bonus. Even if you don't leave, you got the money up front. So, I mean, I'm actively sometimes submarining myself. Once you got a raise, right? Didn't I tell you, you should ask for a raise? And then you asked for a raise, and I immediately had buyer's regret. I was like, why did I do this to myself? But you deserved a raise.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the answer to that question of how have I managed benefits is I outsource as much as I can. I use an office manager to get the information, and then I make a decision. and I leave it to the folks in the office to make a decision about what they want. You know, if everybody came to us and said, we want dental, I'd be like, I don't think you do. Here are the numbers. But if they all were like, yeah, we want dental at that point, you know what? We suddenly have dental. I think those things are decisions that you have to make, but I think that it's easier to get it from the people that you work with. Find out what's important to them and then do that. In our office, with a young office, 401k plans are not important to them. And maybe that will change at some point. And if it does, that's great. And we can go through that.
Yeah. Also with employee benefits and health insurance and stuff, when you were starting out, there wasn't a health insurance plan because it didn't make any sense to, right? The part-time paralegal that you had, or even the full-time paralegal that you had, it just so happened that they were young enough to still have health insurance through another source or something like that. And then you eventually hire somebody that is a pain in your ass about getting health insurance. And I was like, I can't come work for you unless I have health insurance. And then you're like, okay, well, I guess I have to get health insurance for everybody.
Well, no, even then I wasn't willing to commit because it was.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think we were at 4 people at that point. I think we had 4 people.
Yeah.
And you would have been the only person that needed health insurance. And I remember that we agreed. We priced out. Yeah, we priced out. We priced out the health insurance, and I said, if I get health insurance, then you make this much, which was less because I was paying the health insurance. And if we don't get health insurance, I'll pay you more so you can go out and get your own health insurance.
Right.
But I mean, I think if on a plaintiff's firm, being financially open to the extent you're comfortable, I think it has a lot of benefits because everybody knows how they're doing. You know, we just settled 2 really big cases. And what did I send an email out last week? I don't know. I think it was last week. I think it was Friday. The email started with, hey, everybody, we just settled 2 really big cases. If you haven't heard, everybody had heard. We're going to have midsummer back to school bonuses this year, you know, like because everybody knows that great thing happened. So now we're gonna, you know, everybody's gonna share in that. So that's what I'm focused on is I want to make good decisions and I want to figure out what's important to people. My transition to what's important to people is Patrick also asked, do we have firm meetings or team meetings daily or weekly? No, I hate meetings. I hate meetings. When is the last time that we had an official firm meeting? Don't be shy here.
I think it was either when we were bringing on a few new people or when a few people had left. And it was like more, I mean, it was a couple months ago. It was more like, here's the status of the firm. You know, here's the plan. Here's our plan going forward. We're going to bring in some new people, you know, so on and so forth. Here's how work's going to be transitioned. But it was a short meeting.
And that all went with the case management software.
Right.
That was
yes. Yeah. And so it's almost like we don't have firm-wide meetings. It's almost like the more people involved in a meeting, the shorter they end up being. We have a lot of meetings that are, you know, me with a case manager or you with a paralegal or something like that. And those are the most meaningful meetings that we have. And so it just depends on.
I think that's really important to bring up.
Yeah.
We have a ton of small meetings. I mean, you have a meeting with the 2 paralegals you work with every week, or is it every other week that you do?
Every other week. And then with 2 case managers, I try and do every week because some of that's like treatment based. It all depends on what you're meeting about. Yeah.
And I mean, our meetings even then are so informal, but you have somebody in your office and you have a meeting with them and you go through the cases. It used to be that we would have firm meetings, and right now we used to sit around and have meetings, talk about every case, every lawyer talking about every case in order with all staff members. And I know a lot of law firms do that and find it valuable. It's not valuable for us. And the reason I think is because we're having so much dialogue and conversation every day about cases that I don't think they're needed in our firm. But I'll give this. I think that when you're small, it's really, really valuable to have a lot of meetings. Not a lot of meetings, but have meetings and get everyone on the same page. When you're really big, I think that's also, I imagine that's also true. The middle size that we are at, we have meetings with our different departments. I mean, like the case managers have a case manager meeting, the litigation paralegals have a paralegal meeting, lawyers have meeting at LS Teca, you know, with a beer. But I mean, we are all in constant communication with each other, and I don't know. I don't know if that will change in terms of having these firm meetings. The meetings we do have are kind of like State of the Union meetings where I just come in and say, hey, some shit's been going on, sometimes really good shit. Some like, here's what's been going on in case you haven't heard, and here's what this means, and here's what we're going to do now. And, I say we do those meetings, and then we have kind of like buy-in meetings. We're like, hey, here's what's going on, and I'd like to make this decision. What do you all think about that? Those are generally our meetings, but we don't, very meetings free. I fucking hate meetings.
Yeah, and you laughed when I said the more people we have, the shorter the meeting usually is. But it's because there's because of how many different roles, right? Because we have so many different roles now than when we were 5 people. There's less that applies to everyone. And so having smaller meetings that are more focused on each person's individual roles and the tasks they're doing, the cases they're working on, just makes more sense and require more frequency.
We don't need to tell, we don't need to tell a case manager what we're going to do to, the 5 new people we're going to try to get cases from this month. Like that's a pointless thing. It's kind of like, I feel like meetings are TV news, local news, where you have to tell people what they want to hear. How are you doing? And we have individual meetings, of course, but now that I'm thinking about it, Stokes, we have too many meetings. That's what I'm saying. Feels like we have a lot of meetings. But I think you have to tell employees what they want to hear. You need to give them, they want to hear feedback. They want to hear how the firm's doing. They want to hear why they matter. And then I think there's a category of things that you have to tell them because they need to know. And they need to know about, changes in policies or ways we're going to do things, direction of the firm, even if it changes only slightly. And I think that you have to balance those two things. I don't think most staff members give a shit about meetings. Now, go the other extreme. There's a firm that I can think of in my head because I see this shit on social media all the time. By the way, after 10:30, I just feel like I can curse because we're probably going to cut some of this or people will stop watching on YouTube. So I'm like, why does it matter? But there's a firm that, I know has a daily huddle and has, monthly meetings. And hey, for that firm, if that's what your employees want, do that. Like, that's awesome. I will not be attending those meetings. Like, I don't want to be in a firm like that.
Alex will not be attending those meetings.
No.
Next door.
No. Yeah. No. If you're the director of morale, Alex is like the Grim Reaper of death. So, like, that's not what I want my firm to be. We are not a rah-rah firm. And I think the identity of the firm really matters. Like, we are not a rah-rah go team firm. We are a work our ass off from whatever your hours are. This is from the staff side and from the lawyer side, although you all don't have hours, you just work. That's true, I think, with any lawyer. But from the staff side, I expect you to work really hard. Your job matters. That's why this shit's serious. That's why we're not eating cookies and donuts and, throwing a party every Friday, going to Top Golf on Tuesdays. What we do matters. You're going to be rewarded in the way that you want to be rewarded, which you're going to be praised. You're going to be told you're doing a good job. You're going to be challenged and you're going to make money. And I think that's why staff members stay. They're praised, they're challenged, they make money. And the same thing is true with lawyers, although, you have more independence and you have more control over what you do. So we are not a rah-rah firm. We are a serious get shit done firm. When if your time ends at 5:30, you better be out my door. You should not be working at 5:31 because all you're doing is lowering your hourly rate, and that's not fair to you. If you have too much work, then I'm not doing my job. You have 40 hours of work, you get the hell out of here. Lawyers, to some degree, you guys have responsibilities that you have to do within the firm. But a large degree is how successful and profitable do you want to be by doing the things that you need to do, so you have control over that, with certain thresholds, obviously, and minimum expectations, which are always well succeeded. So that's not our firm. And I think meetings, I'm afraid of the meetings culture. I feel like I'm on Fox News here, ranting against cancel culture or some shit. But like, meetings culture, if I was to be some talking head on TV, I would be ranting against meetings culture. Like, just go do your work. Don't. But anyway, that's my rant. That's my rant for the day. And maybe that will be my rant here at Stokes. Usually I end with something. Maybe my rant will be, this isn't what I was planning, but now I'm on it. Maybe the thing I'll leave everybody here with is that whether it's your business or whether you work for somebody else, it is your little mini business. and you make it whatever you want it to be. And if your firm is a rah-rah firm, if you are a rah-rah person, if you are a buttoned up, stickler for things, be who you are. The firm represents, and your work represents you, whether it's your firm or within somebody else's firm. When Stokes and I work on a case, other lawyers can call us, and they don't even now, a lot of them don't even need to guess. Something gets filed and they go, can I talk to Chris? Because they know you filed it. Or I'll file something in a case and then I'll get a call and it's like, hey, I know you just filed this, not Chris. I need to talk to you about it. You have to have your own, be your own person, have your own style. You have to be able to work someplace where that allows you to do that. And because the theme of this is operations, as a person running a law firm, the absolute toughest thing is to allow people to be themselves. And you have to figure out a way to do that. If you work for a place that doesn't let you be yourself and doesn't give you chances to succeed, doesn't give you chances to thrive, find a different Sherpa, go somewhere else, because you end up working for one person or two people at most. So when I worked at Troutman with 800 lawyers in the firm or whatever it was, I worked for two partners, worked for two people. We had a mini firm. So if you are starting a firm or running a firm, you are those people's Sherpas, and that's an incredible responsibility. It's pretty damn cool. I'll say this to some kid, I don't know, maybe one day, and they'll look at me like I looked at Bo Rutledge, like, Sherpa, what are you talking about? But you are the leader, and you have that responsibility, and that's really cool. If you're somewhere where you don't like your Sherpa, you think you're going to die up climbing up, the mountain, you should probably look for a different person, not necessarily a different firm. Look for a different person that may be in a different firm. Some firms have two different personalities within one firm, and working for one person is great. Working for another person wouldn't be great for you and your personality. So that's my advice here is, my advice, I guess, is from an operations standpoint is you have to take the risk and you have to trust your people, trust your hiring, and let people be themselves. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you gave the person and your team members an opportunity to be themselves and succeed, because your way is not always the right way. I don't know. Is that good? Yeah. Is that good, Andy?
Yeah.
All right. Any last minute questions from everybody? I never expected this to go so long. So sorry for anybody still hanging in there that's bored out of their mind. Otherwise, I think we're good. Anything else I can think of? No questions. Last call. I'm glad Paul Simon was able to join. He had user error yesterday and couldn't log in. He's emailing me, texting me, talking to Rachel. Can't get into the webinar. I can't get into the webinar. I'm glad he got in. Other than that, though, for everybody that's hung around, I appreciate y'all staying. If I haven't talked to y'all in a little bit, please shoot me an email or shoot me a text or something. Let's catch up. And yeah, appreciate Chris hanging on here and asking these questions. I know he's got more valuable things to do than be a host of a very small talk show. Paul Simon emailing me. A very rude email. So anyway, appreciate email. So guys, you can email me one word, 4-letter emails. That's fine. You email whatever you want. I'd love to hear from all of you. It's kind of cool. It's funny Paul's actually listening here. I assumed he was, doing something fancy. But anyway, if you need a divorce lawyer, Paul Simon is the man. If you need somebody to go have a drink with you at Marcel, Paul Simon is your man. So there's two positive things. But anyway, I hope this helped everybody. I really appreciate you joining me. We'll get a new topic out probably next week, and get a link out for the next one. I think I have 2 good ideas from that we may do. So I'm excited. But everybody have a great week. Appreciate you joining me. And adios. So.